You absolutely have to become okay with not being liked. No matter how loving or kind you are, you will never people please your way into collective acceptance. You could be a whole ray of sunshine and people will hate you because they used to rain. Be okay with shining regardless. And that was posted on Instagram by I am Kiara J. Hello everyone and welcome to this week's episode of the Toy Talks podcast. My name is Toy Washington and we teach, guide and educate Black women how to navigate the world of work safely and in turn highlight the path of our success. You get to define what success means to you. There's not a collective there's not a collective definition of what success means. Now, whilst the English dictionary may define success, what it actually means to you on a subjective level, it doesn't have to be the same as other people is effectively what I'm saying. As an ex-people pleaser, that opening quote means a lot to me because I think I have learnt that where the people-pleasing mentality has come from, and it is the need and want to be accepted, especially when you have grown up in an environment where you're made to feel like you're not good enough and nothing you ever do will ever be good enough, and actually you as a person are not good. Not because of any intrinsic reason, but because people will use what they can to control you, and then when you claw back control of your life, then you become the problem, and then unless you cut that perpetual cycle of toxicity, you become complicit in your own experiences, and then you get to a point where maybe or maybe not, in my case it was the case, that you walk away. You then are confronted with whether you made the right decision. And then you realise that calm that you feel after what has felt like a storm is actually peace. And if you hadn't made those decisions to protect yourself, you would not be experiencing peace. To be a people pleaser is probably one of the most difficult environments to be in because you're always on edge. So sometimes you just have to be okay with who you are as a person and who you know yourself to be. And the fact that you're never going to please everybody. I'm entitling this episode, Always Show a Thankful Heart. And it's because my dad raised me with that. He would always say it's important to show a thankful heart. There's so many life lessons and quotes and, like antidotes that my dad would share with me and my siblings. And what I love and I miss so much since he has passed is how honest my dad was about where his flaws sat and the mistakes that he had made and the life lessons that he had learned and the things that he had done differently as a result of learning from his mistakes, but also my dad was never afraid to make a mistake. But he was always very vocal about showing a thankful heart. And my dad said, it could be just as simple as saying thank you to someone. You don't know what day they've had. But when somebody goes out of their way for you, my dad goes, showing that thankful heart is not only showing it to them, but it's an understanding that someone has selflessly given, shown, or embraced you on a selfless level, and that doesn't happen all the time. Understanding that the ancestors bring forth people as instruments. But in order to almost be thankful and not ungrateful, it's acknowledging that you're not, it's acknowledging that for you to receive this is a blessing and you have to honour that blessing. You have to show a thankful heart. I've lived my life by that and I continue to live my life by that, and that's exactly how I'm raising my child. There are so many things I can't wait to teach her and stuff, but showing a thankful heart is really, really important. I'm going to bring it to life for you. Either last year or the year before, I can't quite remember, pregnancy brain is still operating. I applied for a particular role, and it was for a global organisation, a very well-renowned and well-respected organisation. And the agency that put me forward for the role are a very boutique agency, and they don't put a lot of people forward for certain roles. They're very picky. In fact, I felt happy to be on their books because they get very premium roles with premium clients, and sometimes access to certain clients for roles because they've got exclusivity with these end clients. I went through an interview process, and it was a 2-panel. It was a man and a woman. So we're going to call the woman Sarah and we're going to call the man Jim. And it was an okay interview, but I couldn't call it either way. It was just a very pleasant interview. I didn't end up getting that job. And I was disappointed, but I took the learnings from it. And the profile that was sent to the end client, I asked the agency if they can send me a copy of the profile, and the profile was fantastic. And it was basically the overarching cover letter to support my CV. And it was the way they drafted it's the way they drafted it, and they added certain stuff to my CV, but really brought to life the essence and the journey of my career in a really succinct way. And I have that copy and I use it, and I added stuff and in my CV, removed stuff, and it's kind of like when I'm applying for a role or going through an agency, I actually use the cover sheet that agency had used. You see, you learn from every aspect of life. I always say I'm a student of life and I'm forever learning. So after that happened, about 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from the agency. And they said to me that said company has reached out to them and specifically requested me to interview for a similar role as the one I did before. And that this lady, Sarah, had forwarded my CV to her colleague. The recruiter said that this has never happened before since he's been managing this client's recruitment. It's never happened. It's never happened that they've come to him and said, we want to interview this person again for another role. And he said, which shows me the first interview you had was amazing, and probably there was nothing in it. Maybe it was a case that somebody had maybe a month's worth of experience on a particular type of project more than you. I'd love to put you forward. I said, okay. So I meet the guy, and we're going to call the guy Sam. And I had a meeting with Sam, and it was a really nice meeting. And he said, listen, my colleague Sarah forwarded me your CV, and as soon as I saw it, I had to meet you. And she speaks very highly of you. And he goes, I'm aware that you didn't get the role in that team, but it's not to talk to your ability to deliver or anything like that. But I hope the fact that I'm also interviewing you for a similar role shows you that it's just a different team and everything. I said, okay. So then he said to me, there's going to be another interview with the program director. And he was very honest. He said, it's really difficult, is what he said. I said, no problem. Within 48 hours, I had a second stage interview with that particular lady, and she was very intense, is the best way to describe it. 24 hours later, I get a call from the recruiter, and the recruiter says to me, they would like to offer you a role. They said, it's 100% remote, because it wasn't necessarily advertised as that. I was very clear that it would have to be. And he said to me what the rate was, and the rate was absolutely amazing, and I expected it to be for that particular organisation. And he said, I've literally got the offer here, it's about whether you want to accept, and I can send it over. And I said to him, I can't take the role. He said, pardon? He goes, is it because you didn't get offered the role that you applied for 2 weeks ago? I says, no. I just can't accept this role right now. This is not the right time for me. And everyone that listens to my podcast and platform know that I will forever stay interviewing, because that's how I've become really, really good at interviewing. So going through an interview process is part and parcel of my career journey. But the recruiter's not going to understand that, because he's also thinking about his commission, and it would be pretty high in accordance. If I think about it in relation to my day rate, I know that his commission for this would be really good. And it's a 6-month contract, and it would likely very much extend. So that was that. I didn't hear from the recruiter after that. A whole year, no, it's not even up to a year. A whole 8.5, 9 months goes by. And the great thing about having a Teams interview is you get to see the people's emails that you're going to have an interview with, because it's on the invite, right? So the guy Sam, who I had interviewed with at that particular organisation, I reach out to him and I say, Sam, I'm not sure if you remember me, so I've attached my CV for ease of reference. I was offered the role, XYZ, 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 i.e. the job title, everything, and I said, unfortunately, I was not in a position to accept the role. I said there were circumstances beyond my control, and it wasn't right for me to accept the role if I couldn't complete the assignment. And more than anything else, my integrity is very important. And I know that you must have been very disappointed, but I'd rather disappoint you now rather than burn a bridge. It'll be great to connect. Hope you're well. Take care. Kind regards. So, about 3 or 4 days later, I get an email from Sam. And he says, I was really disappointed that you didn't take the role. He goes, I really wanted to work with you. I think you would have been amazing. But I really respect the fact that how many months later you've reached out and you have kind of explained what happened. And I respect it, because not many people would do that. And that in itself shows me integrity and shows me that you are a woman of your word, he said. So he said, I'll bear you in mind for any future roles and projects. Kind regards, take care. I was like, cool. Because for me, that I felt good after that. And I was like, whatever. So 3 months after that, I get an email from Sam. Just out of the blue, random email. I was literally getting into my car, heading off somewhere. And he says, hey Toya, how are you doing? There's a role that's come up here. And I just wanted to know kind of what your circumstances are, what you're working on, what you're doing. And is this something that you would consider? Because I'd love to put you forward for it. He said, unfortunately, it's not working in my team, but the projects are huge. So at that point, I'm looking at this email and I'm thinking, I disappointed him. I reached out to him. And when someone says, they'll bear you in mind, you don't really think of it. Like, I just let it go. And also, sometimes people just say it to be polite. But he wasn't. He really meant it, because he did reach out. So I went back to him. I told him what I was up to, what I was doing, the project I was on, etc., etc., etc. Now, the only thing that he hadn't told me is that this was a perm role. I wasn't aware of that at the point, because obviously my interactions with that organisation through the agency has always been about interim roles. Based on projects. It was never about a perm. Anyway, after that, didn't hear from him again. So December, end of November, early December, I reach out and say, So I replied to his email, told him what I'm up to, whatever. Told him about availability, everything like that. And didn't hear back. So then I reached out to him again and I said, I haven't heard from you, haven't heard much about this role. Don't worry if it's, not live anymore or whatever the situation is. Just thank you for even thinking of me. But I just thought I'd reach out because I know the time of year is really busy, and just let you know that, I am interested, I'm still interested. So he came back to me literally within a few hours and he's like, oh, I'm really sorry, I was on annual leave and there was a lot going on, I hadn't forgotten, but thank you for coming back to me. And he says, I'm going to recommend you for the role. So I'm thinking, should he be going through the agency here? Because I don't understand, unless I'm now contracting directly with the company. Because I just didn't understand. So the next day, so 24 hours after he said he'd recommend me, I get an email from their HR. And it says, you've been recommended by Sam Belfontaine. Look at me. Yeah, his name is Sam Belfontaine. That's what we're calling him. And to apply for this role, please can you click this link. Now, I'm going to say something. It's really hard to get into this organisation. So the fact that I had got in as, going for a recruiter was amazing. But the fact that they had an opening twice in 1 year for my field was unprecedented, because even a recruiter said it to me. but it's also a reflection of how serious they take my field as well, because it's something that they really want to develop, but we'll get onto that later. So when I get this link and everything, I'm like, okay, this is perm. This is really clearly perm. It's not going through a recruiter or anything. It's perm. I didn't actually click on the link. It took me a couple of days. But what happened in those couple of days urged me to click the link. My sister-in-law had come over for Christmas, and obviously it was the first Christmas with my daughter. And one thing about my sister-in-law and I, we have such a great relationship. We are always laughing, but it's very wholesome, and we have a bond. We're really bonded. And, you know, I have been told, and she has said it, that she does look up to me a lot, which, you know, is a blessing, but also as well, I just feel really honoured. Also, she's a bit younger than me, and she was at the time finding her way in her career. So obviously we talked and everything. I was able to support her as much as possible, and she has kind of blossomed. Not kind of, she has blossomed. Anyway, she said to me, just one random day over Christmas, she says, "What do you love about your job?" And I was like, "I don't love my job. I'm good at it, but love is a strong word." She's like, "Oh, okay." She said, "Would you ever specialise?" I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Well, you contract, you consult." Like, she goes, "The whole time I've known you, I've never known you without consulting. You've always got something in your pipeline. But you've always worked in different areas. So you've worked in, for example, you've done IT transformation. You have done facilities management. You have done dispute resolution. You've done so much stuff. But, like, what is it that you're passionate about? What area of what you do?" And I just stopped and I looked at her and I said, "No one's ever asked me that before." Now, I caveat that by saying that my sister-in-law is a HR specialist, a very good one. So her question of me was quite pertinent to what she does, but also I had never stopped to think. You see, becoming a contractor for me was because I was in a role where I was training other people and they were earning more than me. And then when it was time to promote me, there was nowhere to promote because there was a flat structure, and I became dissatisfied. I became resentful because I really loved a particular role that I was in. So to find out I was so undervalued, it forced me to consider contracting. One of my really good friends at the time was a contractor, so she kind of advised me how to get into contracting, set up my limited company and everything, and then the rest was history, and it's been 7 years deep. And I have climbed up the ranks exponentially in my career. I'm very senior. I've worked on very amazing projects. Some projects that you guys would be shocked. And shocked more because of the visibility of those projects. And it's not just been one or two. There's been quite a few. I'm quite proud of them. So to then be asked about specialising as a contractor, you don't think about this. It's not part and parcel of being a contractor. So I had to sit in that. Because up until that time, I'm just contracting. And bearing in mind, I had just started the current contract that I'm in as well. I'd already started, right? And my career, in a way, was under review because I've just had a baby, I'm a new mum, then it's career and motherhood. And I didn't know what that would look like because I was still figuring that out. So then to be asked quite pointed questions meant that I really had to now sit and think about what my next steps were. And even if it was to stay in contracting, I could still specialise in my in contracting as well. I literally have become a generalist, and I've always told you that you need to be able to pivot, and that's the reason why I never wanted to be pigeonholed as doing just facilities management or just doing dispute resolution and just doing ADR work as well, or just do employment projects, or IR35 projects. I wanted to do everything so that I always would have an opportunity to make money as a senior commercial contract consultant, and that's exactly what happened by the grace of the ancestors. So what my sister-in-law didn't know is I had something in my mailbox, right? So then I told her, and she was laughing, and she was like, Toya, you are so amazing at what you do that I feel like if you want to work for this company, you're so intentional that if it is your intention, you will work for them. And if you know anything about me, I'm intentional. I was quite overwhelmed. I'd just given birth to a child. I was back into contracting. My daughter had just turned 7 months. My hormones were all over the place, and I'm trying to find my footing, and we're getting into a new routine as a family. It felt like just a very big decision, and for me, I deal with my career like a project, and I've told everybody that. I've been very transparent about how I've dealt with my career, and it's also meant that I've been able to attain success because I've been very strategic with my career and how I manage it on a personal level and also situational levels as well. So then I made a decision. I sat back and I really took a few days to think, and then I made a decision about what I was going to do, what does good look like, what direction I want to go in, why do I want to go in it. And part of that was because when you're a contractor, you could potentially earn a lot of money, especially like consulting and doing certain projects. I've been able to earn 6 figures, and I've earned a lot of money along the way, and it's because you're able to work like through Christmas, depending on some of the rules of where you're working, but usually where I work, I can work as many days as I want. But the whole point is, if you don't work, you don't get paid. And as much as, you know, contractors earn a lot of money, we take on a lot of risk. We don't get sick pay. Sometimes you get annual leave, depending if you're inside IR35, but we also have to pay a levy fee with the agency. You have to set up your own pension, and usually it's through an umbrella company if you're inside IR35. If it's outside, then you have to make sure that you set up your own private pension and things like that. Outside of IR35, you have to make sure you have your insurances, so you pay for that either monthly or yearly. If you're outside IR35, you have to pay for an accountant, things like that. So for me, contracting has been very lucrative. I have one role inside, one role outside, or I'll have one role inside and a few small outside roles. And that's literally what I've done. And I've built on that by having really good contacts that I've furnished over the last few years, who they know I'm really good at my job. I deliver. If something comes through the door, I often get the right of first refusal before they would go out to other people, because they've had the experience of working with me. And I've really enjoyed contracting. I've really enjoyed how my confidence has grown, the idea of starting again, because sometimes I find it really, really hard, and I have found it really hard to start again. So contracting allows you to work on that, because you're going into a new environment, your role is to deliver, but you're starting again each and every time. You're not going to get a handover as a contractor. That's out of the window if you're expecting that. If you do, that's great. But I'm yet to be in a contract in the last 7 years where I get any type of handover, and I don't expect it. I do discuss that on the freelance and interim masterclass on the toytalks.com website. Anyway, so Christmas, I missed out on almost £10,000, and that's because my daughter finished nursery a day or two before Christmas, and it was just natural for me to just be off, right, and look after my daughter. It didn't even occur to me about the amount of money I was missing out on. And Kay had said to me, you know, if you'd spoken to me, we could have, you know, managed our daughter between us, so that you could work. But it wasn't my focus, because anytime my daughter's around, she is the main focus of my attention. But again, it did lend itself to making me think about, you know, contracting. You know, I often said I'm not going to go back to perm, and I had to work through that as well. Like, why have I taken that position? What is it about perm that is represented that makes me uncomfortable? And I had to work through that. This is all before knowing how I'm going to respond to the email from this company. Sam's recommended me to their HR. I had to work through these things in a short window as well. So I think perm unnerves me, because I have been perm before, and I think I was perm before. What felt like the wrong company was probably the right company, because it was the launch pad to me being a contractor. But I think there's some organisations that are just toxic, and I think not being able to understand the trajectory growth has been really difficult. Objectives, town halls, all this stuff that sometimes I just think is a waste of time and total crap. And it's a part of perms that I can't stand, if I'm honest. I've not had good experiences in working for big global organisations in the past when it comes to enforcing my bonuses. Like, why am I like having to have this discussion when you know I've got a whole flipping feedback and burn folder, but I'm gonna have to present my case? It's exhausting. You know you have somebody that delivers. You know this person's good at their work. Why am I now doing a whole fucking presentation about my fucking bonus? Stuff like that pisses me off. So again, going perm, it would have to be for the right company, and I would be very cutthroat with the contract, what I expect and what I want. So I took a few days, I spoke to Kay about it, because these type of career decisions now affect my husband, it affects my daughter. She goes to a private nursery, and I didn't know what this organisation would offer, but it would have to be damn very well good for me to actually really sit up and think, okay. So I decided that in terms of specialising, I was ready to specialise. And this is where I wanted to this particular area I want to specialise in happens to be a big area for this organisation. And then I said, this is if I was to be presented with an offer, if I did get this role, I would be looking at cultural fit. I would be looking at their diversity numbers in terms of senior management. I would have to sit on senior management. I would have to have my pick of projects. And the overall package would have to be really good. And when I talk about package, pension is not a package. I'm talking about stocks. That's where I'm at, because I have a daughter and I'm investing in her future. So I went on the link and I applied for the role. January, I get an email from HR requesting an initial interview. So I have this initial interview, and the HR manager is amazing and is thorough. So we have a really frank discussion, and luckily for me, the HR manager used to be a contractor, in fact a consultant contractor. And he was like, I get it. He goes, I get it, because this is a massive thing. If you were to move forward, this is huge. So, and also if we were to move forward with you, we would have to come correct, because what is your day rate? I told him. He was like, oh. I said, yeah. So this is where I'm working. So then we have the interview and everything. It goes really well. It's very much an eye-opener. And we end it as, you know what, Toya, I've really enjoyed talking to you. You've been very honest, you've been very open, you've been very direct about your skill set, and we've gone through your CV, you've taken a really nice journey. I understand now what you're looking for, where you've been in terms of your career progression to date, and I really want to take you to the next stage if you're interested. So I said to him, okay, do you want a day to think about it? He was laughing, he was like, no, I want to take you to the second stage if you're interested. So I was like, alright, cool. Second stage was in front of the initial lady that I had my interview with when she had an interim role and I didn't get the role. She's the one that sent my CV to Sam. She was on the interview panel. But I didn't realise until I switched my camera on and she switched hers on, and we both started laughing. So it was her and another gentleman. So we're having this interview. It's a competency-based interview. It's a really thorough interview, and this is where they tell me like about the projects, about there's certain things that happen within the organisation where like a consult, like, you know, like how consultancies work, where unless you have a big project then they bench you and things like that. They have that same operating model in this organisation, but she had in mind two particular projects that are huge for the organisation, high visibility, high value. And these are the ones that they would consider that I would be probably better, you know, for. Anyway, so we're going through the interview, and I'm thinking to myself, whether I get this job or not, it's actually really good I've gone through this process, especially with this type of organisation. And this is the same woman that I didn't get the role in her team. So if I didn't get this role, fine, whatever. And at the end of the day, it's what you learn about yourself. Now I understand I want to specialise and where I want to specialise in, what a perm would look like to me. So if this is what I take away from this, then that's great. So then after the call, after the interview, that second stage now, probably 3 or 4 days later. No, it was a week later actually. Yeah, it was a week later. I get another email from HR and they say the actual director who I would have been reporting to has been promoted. And I looked online and that was true. So there's a new director coming in, but it's internal. But he's not based in the UK. However, that's who my interview was with. And I'm thinking, what is this? And it's a man. I was like, alright, cool. So I'm trying to look him up. Didn't find much information. Have my interview with him. And he seems really lovely. But you can tell he's been there for a long time and he knows his stuff insofar as his stuff. But in the commercial contract field, commercial contract consulting, all of that, I don't know how extensive his knowledge is. So he needs like seniors who get it. So he asked me more questions to do with my trajectory, where I see myself, what do I want to achieve, why, how do I want to get there, this, that and the third. And it was a very different type of interview because no one's really asked me those questions before, at least not in a very long time, because I've been contracting. And I didn't realise that Kay had overheard this third stage interview. Anyway, it was a very pleasant interview. There was nothing that caused me concern. I was very directional in my questioning. I asked what type of manager is he. He can't be a micromanager because of where he's based, but he could if he wanted to be a dick. But he's not. I don't get that impression from him. And I was really asking about difficult situations and things like that, and because he's been in the organisation a long time, I need to know what that means to him. So I was asking those quite pointed questions. Anyway, so after the interview now, I don't hear anything for like 4 days. Then HR get back in contact with me and say, we've got a proposal for you. I was like, okay. They send me the proposal, and the proposal is the salary, the package, the lot. Now you all know how I move in that. So I'm going to pause there. After the first stage interview, I emailed Sam, who had recommended me, and told him that I had been progressed to second stage. He sent me a lovely email back wishing me luck. When I was, and he said that, one of the panel members had told him because he'd asked about how it was going. So at every stage, I let Sam know where I was because he put his reputation on the line to recommend me. Number one, he didn't have to do that. He didn't. Because when he offered me a role working on his team as an interim, I didn't take it. He could have slighted me. He doesn't know me. We had a 20 to 45 minute interview very many months ago. He just put his reputation on the line. That's what he did. He put his reputation on the line to recommend me. And I was like, in shock, to be honest. Because no one's ever done that for me. No one. I do it all myself. With, like, my ancestors are the one that paved the way and make it happen. But as in a person that can say, I didn't know. So, the proposal was sent over to me. And you all know I negotiate everything. I do. I've got a negotiation masterclass. The blueprint is there. This proposal was so good. There was nowhere for me to negotiate. Because they came correct. Do you remember the first meeting I had with the HR? He fully understood I'm moving potentially as a contractor to a perm. You need to make it worth my while if I'm even to pay attention. And that's exactly what they did. So it wasn't just that. So like, you know, like when some organisations give you a golden handshake. A golden handshake is like a sign-on bonus, effectively. But this wasn't that. This was different. This was a complete package that not only would benefit me, but benefit my family. So I had some time, took 2 days to think about it, pore over it, pray over it, spoke to Kay. And then I said, I'm happy with this proposal in principle, but I would need to review the contract. And HR, they know anyway. Look at the position you're hiring me for. So I looked through the contract. There was a couple of things I needed to verify with them. So for example, during the HR meeting I had, they said to me that it was predominantly a remote role. What does predominantly mean, please? Is it a remote role or is it not? Tell me that. It's a remote role. So why is it not in the contract? Because what it's saying is this is your base. They're giving me a base office, but it doesn't say anything about remote. So he then started talking about their flexible working policy. I says, well, if you're referencing a policy, I need to see it. Can you send it to me? So I says, I need you to clarify to me what the mode of operating is for this role. And if you can't amend the contract to reflect it because it's not your policy to do so, then I need to see your flexible working policy and how it operates on a granular level. And then I need you to clarify in an email what the expectation is. Now, anything via email or agreed in an interview is not legally binding. But if you put it in writing and that induces me to sign the contract, that's very different. Because even though it's not legally binding, it still carries enough weight for me to show that I accepted this role because this is what you said. So I was like, all right, cool. Because their flexible working policy is actually very good. And his email was, hey Toya, this role is a remote working role. And the requirement would be that if there is a business need to have a face-to-face meeting, for example, with a client, that you would happily attend the client site to do so. Now, I don't know about you lot. After my meetings, I go home. I don't stay there to the end of the day so people can see that I've sat down and kept a chair warm. That's not me. I haven't got issue with that. So if there's a meeting at 1 o'clock, I will find my ass in London, go to the meeting. Once the meeting's finished and I've checked my emails and done whatever I need to do, I make my way home because I don't do rush hour. It's not good for my health. So I was like, alright, the email was very good. I was like, okay. I put that in my folder. Then they sent the formal offer. The contract, went through everything. Kay said, this is an amazing opportunity. But what made it a greater opportunity was because they're putting me on this 2-year program to become director. And the view is that I would manage the commercial contract function, which they are making global in every region where they have offices. And they want me to be the person to do it, to implement it. And I feel like that's where I'm at in my career. I'm at director level now. But I need to work on the soft skills associated with director level because you're going to have direct reports and you all know I don't like people. So that's what I need to work on. I was really honest at 3rd stage with the director that was interviewing me because his view was, you're at director level, so we want to hire you as a senior, then we'll put you on this 2-year program and you could finish it early and then we'll put you in. And I had that built into my contract. Because I don't want lip service and I don't want you to come and show me documents. I want it in the contract and they put it in the contract. And they also said to me, if at the end of the 2 years I don't want to be a director and I want to stay as the senior in my position, they're happy for that too. But that's their view of where they see my trajectory. So I took a few days, I signed the contract, and I have now a start date. Your girl has gone perm. Do 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 do. It's been a huge decision for me to do it, but I think it's a great decision. I emailed Sam and I said, Sam, nobody has ever done this for me before. I've had doors open for me, but believe me, I was banging down the door for the person to just open it up a little bit, and I forced my way in. But no one's actually put their name or reputation on the line for somebody they hardly know and recommended me. And I know that your name carries weight, and I just want to thank you. And I want to say that it's probably one of the nicest things somebody has done for me in my career. This role is career defining, career changing, and I'm going to learn so much, but you gave me the opportunity. And that is something I will never forget. And my dad always told me to show a thankful heart, and I will forever show a thankful heart for the opportunity you've allowed me to have in just doing something that was so selfless and that was recommending me. So Sam wrote back to me. He's like, Toya, I had no doubt in my mind that you would get this role. You are perfect for it. And he goes, you know, I can't wait to meet you face to face, because again, we've never met face to face. I can't wait to meet you face to face, and I can't wait for us to work together on certain things, and I'm really happy for you. And it was just such a nice email back. But it's always important to show a thankful heart. So the HR manager, I reached out to him to thank him for managing the process, because it was across like 2 weeks, and I always knew where I stood. He always managed my expectations about time and stuff. And he sent me a really nice email. He says, you know, it's not many people that remember if they get an offer, then that's kind of the last you hear from them until like they're onboarded and stuff. And he goes, sometimes he said sometimes it can be a thankless role, because he says we reject more than we hire. So I just know you're going to have an amazing career here, and I am so grateful that I've been part of that journey, because I know you're going to do amazing things. And that made me feel amazing. And he also said, he was like, I know how hard it is to make the transition to perm, but you will just always adopt a contractor mindset. And it was like I'd written it myself, because that's exactly my approach to certain things. But I feel like, especially if you have stocks in a company, you also have a vested interest for them to do well. That's the truth. If you make the decision to go from contract to perm, I feel like you have a vested interest in yourself in terms of how you want to develop, because that in itself is huge. In terms of consultation work and stuff, I'll still be doing ad hoc stuff, but I'm still a 6-figure babe, so that's made me really happy. I think also as well, there are key things I feel that I wanted to communicate as like learnings, that you don't have to be the greatest networker to network. People think networking is just putting people in a room and hoping that they exchange numbers or have small talk. And I'm really shit at both. I don't want to exchange numbers. I'm really crap at small talk. But a lot of the contacts I have hasn't been because of networking. It just has been a follow-up and making an impression and being polite. People forget that likability doesn't mean you always have to smile, and it doesn't require you to lick someone's ass. It just requires you to have like a warm approach to doing things, and people respect people who have boundaries but also who have integrity. And I always have told myself my integrity means a lot to me, because I've worked to develop an integrity, and I'll work hard to maintain it. It's really important to also understand how to work with recruiters. Whether I think external recruiters is different, but internal recruiters understand the lay of the land. So you get to ask questions and you get to really dig deep. Interviews, I have always said, especially in the interview masterclass, should always be mutual, because you're making a commitment as are the company, but you have a right to also interview them to make sure that that's the right organisation you want to make a commitment to. I think that there are positives and negatives of being perm and being a contractor. And if you're looking to, climb up the ladder really quickly and also make money, contracting is amazing. And I feel so confident in myself that if I hadn't gone into contracting, I don't know if I would have progressed at the speed I have or at all. Because it's also really easy to be stagnant when you are not in a position to take risks and pivot. But I think in everything I have done and shared my blueprint, I hope that it has been an example that you can. Also, not everybody wants to have a family and children. And in that case, I think contracting is also great because you have freedom. And I think freedom is a really important point to discuss here, because freedom to be able to develop at your own pace, I feel is more achievable when you're consulting or interim or freelance, because you're not then having to have the yearly objectives. You have personal objectives, you have a vision board, you have the ability to manifest what you want to happen for your career. You get to walk in the wilderness and figure shit out as a contractor in a way that I feel like you can't when you're a perm. It's almost, I feel like with a perm, they put you into their structure of operating, especially when you've joined the world of work quite newly. But your objectives are yours, and what you want to do or where you see yourself in your career doesn't have to be wedded to an organisation. It should be wedded to what you want, and that to me must always remain at the forefront. It's my career and what I want to do and where I want to do it, and then finding a succinct collaborative way to do that with an organisation I'm going to or currently in. I would say public, private and charity sectors have been where a lot of my experience has sat, and I think there's good and bad in all different sectors. I think when it comes to sectors, it also is determined on your personality type and what you can manage. I feel like at different stages of my life, I've been in the public sector. So a lot of my single life, I was in the public sector. And I feel like a lot of my single life, especially early on in my career, I was in the public sector a lot. And then I spent a significant amount of time in the private sector. And it's good and bad in every sector, but I just feel like it depends on your personality where you would like to specialise, and then, you know, what industry you'd like to work in and for who. I will be the first person to say my dyslexia has always been a massive challenge for me, and I understood how to manage my dyslexia by understanding how I learn. And yes, sometimes I do make mistakes, but it's about how you put measures in place to catch the mistakes or how you recover from them. Is it easy to be a career mum? A career woman and a mum? And I'm going to say it's hard. It's hard because you're juggling so much, you're thinking of so much. You're trying to create a life for your child. You're trying to create memories, and then you have the weekend, and it goes so quickly. So this is why I'm going to say to everybody, I take my weekends really seriously. They're mine. Don't waste my time. I'm not here to waste anyone's time. The weekends are so important because it's only 2 days. Now, some organisations that I know have adopted a 4-day week, in which that would mean that you have a three days for a weekend. But the organisation I am in has not adopted a 4-day week. So Saturdays and Sundays are really, really important. Sundays now is more for my daughter as well, because she does swimming every week. So to myself, I really only have Saturdays. And that's where I'm going to spend time with people I want to spend time with. I'm not going to waste my time on anything that doesn't feed into my soul, because we spent a lot of time at work. So there has to be a balance somewhere. And this is why, going on the journey I have done with life, discovery, family and things like that, I have meaningful relationships that mean something to me, because I don't have a lot of time to waste. For those of you who do not know, I'm also a school governor. Where I find the time, I do not know. But for me, I have a vested interest, because now I have a daughter that will be going through the education system that has changed significantly since I was a student here in the UK. It is a role that is, of course, not paid. It requires time that I don't have, but it also requires representation. And I say representation because I don't think that the black community is represented in a lot of the places where the decisions are made, and one of which is in the schools that affects the next generation of our children coming up. So I do sit on suspension and expulsion boards. I do sit in the meetings. I think it's 3 or 4 times a year for my particular school. And it's something that I feel like I want to give back, because I know how much school governance meant to me when I was growing up. And it's also interesting how I could use some of my transferable skills in that particular position as a school governor, and it's a role that I take very, very seriously. I don't know if you guys would remember, about 2 years ago, I shared with you how I recommended a friend for a role. I'll never do it again. And I kind of broke down the learning lessons and kind of what happened. The reason why you should always sow a thankful heart is because you're sowing seeds and you don't know where you're going to harvest them. What that friend did to me, and I'll link the episode in the show notes, it hurt my soul because I had never used my contacts or had anyone close enough to me in my career to have affected the level of change that she could have. And also I underestimated the fact that she was just not good enough. She was shit at her job. She wasn't good enough for that job. And she wasn't good enough for the job because she didn't have the skill set. She had blagged her way through. Then when she was called out on it, she cries that she's being bullied. You're not being bullied. You're bullying yourself. Because you had an opportunity for me to cover you and you didn't want that. Because you were in the secret competition in your head. And whilst you're in the secret competition in your head, I'm earning 6 figures. And you think that this is my only contract. I've got like 2-3 contracts on the go. And I'm buying a house. No one's checking for you, babes. And it's come to my attention that this person seems to think that as a friend it's your duty to get your friend a job. And this is the reason why this girl's life was always like going round in circles. Going round and round a circle that doesn't end. Because you keep slapping people. When you couldn't pay your rent, I put food on your table. Yes, because when I put my reputation on the line for you, you got that job because you didn't get the job on the basis of your interview. Your interview was shit. Hence why it was taking weeks for someone to get back to you because my boss had already decided she wasn't going to offer you the job. I had to convince her to offer you the job. Your first day, this girl's first day in the job, she sends me an email introducing herself and tells me what she's going to be doing. I said, this is mad. I still got that email. I've got everything. There's one thing about me, I don't talk unless I've got evidence. I got evidence. The girl is fucking mad. And I carried that on my chest, you know, because I felt really hurt. Because for me, career was so important. And suddenly I'm putting my reputation on the line and I'm bringing someone too close. And she fucked it up. And she could have fucked me over. Really fucked me over. But luckily, my reputation and my integrity speaks for itself. And I always thought to myself, why did I do this? Why did I do this? Like, my need to want to look after people and, you know, why? Like, what is it? And I was so angry with myself for so long. Because for me, I was like, how do you show a thankful heart? By slapping on both cheeks the person that took you out of the benefit queue. How do you do that? I couldn't do that, you know. I don't have the heart. I would rather walk away in peace. Because when you sow that seed, it's like a boomerang and it's going to come back to you. I've always said to everybody on this podcast, when you do something with a clean heart and a clean hand, you will reap the blessing tenfold. It will happen. When you are selfless in giving, when you give freely and someone slaps you, they'll be kicking you on the floor like you're a piece of shit. I promise you, in the moment it hurts. The lessons you are learning, you don't know that you're learning them. But just know that when God said vengeance is his, he meant it. When the ancestors witnessed that, the way I was circled in my circle of protection, this girl was going up and down. And I had to hold myself because I know if I'm to talk, I'll finish this girl. But it'd be too easy to finish her because, you see, people will look at it as me. They will not focus on what this person's done. And I can sit there and lay out the evidence. But even for me, I'm thinking, would I even feel good doing that? Lowering myself in the pigsty with that dirty pig? No. I wouldn't. Because I'm above that. For me, I'm above the pigsty. But the biggest lesson I learned is this. I'm quite happy to help, especially that's why I have the toy talks. This is what I'm doing, but I'm never going to bring anyone close enough that when they shit I can smell it. It's not going to happen. I give freely. You all know there are people that will testify and have testified in my mailbox how the platform has changed their life. I've done so many things behind the scenes and I know that I've been sowing that blessing, so I've got nothing to prove. If you are unhappy at that job, why did you stay? If you were going through whatever you were going through, well, that don't make no sense, because when you left, there were all these supplies that weren't paid. You're angry with me. It's not anger, it's jealousy. And it's jealousy because you could see how respected I was in the team. I was senior, I was contracted there, and you kept pushing me, asking me how much money I was earning. I don't tell people that. The only person that knows how much I earn is my man. Jealousy. You don't demand the right, you earn it. I earned the right to be here because I put in the work to get the stripes. Too many people don't want to put in the work, they just want to jump. Don't work like that. It does not work like that. Maybe I take my career too seriously, but it saved my life. And because it saved my life, I take it seriously. People can sit here and say, I earned this, but I'm telling you that the trajectory I've been on was not easy to get to where I am. But I am here and I'm doing what needs to be done, and I continue to be a student of life. Never bite the hand that feeds you, otherwise you'll starve. This man doesn't know me. Sam don't know me for a tin of paint. 20 to 45 minutes in an interview for a role I didn't actually accept. He put his reputation on the line. If that isn't a boomerang blessing, what is? And now my focus is getting to director. My focus is being there for my family, creating memories. And my focus is to continue to build the Toy Talks brand, because I live by what I teach. There's nothing that I've taught here, the blueprint I've given here, that I haven't lived through. Do you understand? I don't have two heads. I just understand strategically how to get to the bag. I understand strategically how to progress, and strategically how to navigate white spaces. I've learned it. White dominated spaces, shall I say. I've often been the minority. You guys can go through the podcast. Is it racism? Is it discrimination? Is it attempted bullying? Is it this? I've shared it, how I dealt with it, the result, and we move. And it goes to show you that nobody is above these type of experiences. But whilst we collectively as black women are here, present, to learn and grow, make sure that your hands are clean. Because now, this flipping greyhound looking pig, yeah, you heard me, while she's still there, God knows, I've left her. I left her a long time. She's not even on my level to talk. She can't talk to me. We're not on the level before. I actually don't even want to be seen with you. You're a disgrace to yourself. As a black woman in a space that has been so difficult, which is the world of work, you took poo from your bum and you smeared it on my face. Luckily the ancestors wiped it all clean, wiped it away, cleansed me, cleaned me, and said, for what you have sown, you will reap the blessing. And that's how it goes. And by the grace of the ancestors, I hope that I will continue to add to my community, to teach my community, to give back, to support, share knowledge, but more importantly, to show the learnings. Because we are all students of life, and whilst you keep learning, you keep growing. Now, to further add, where I'm contracting at the moment, of all the places I've contracted and consulted at, this contract is the best contract I have ever had. Because the people I work with are really nice. It's a very peaceful environment. And I think it's been a nice kind of segue back into work post-maternity leave. And I think they're going to be hugely disappointed because they just sent me a request to renew my contract until the end of the year. But when I balance kind of the decision I've made versus what's offered to me, it's that risk, isn't it, as a contractor, that I've been very lucky. I've always had contracts renewed over the last 7 years that I've worked in different places, sometimes more than once. But sometimes you're at the mercy of people's budgets. And when you get to the end of a project, usually it goes into BAU, so you hand it back to the permanent members of staff to take it into BAU. The whole idea of contracting is you have a defined date when it's going to end, or they may find another project for you and things like that. But when a project comes to an end, that's it, you know. If, for example, my daughter's going to get chickenpox at some point, I'm going to have to take that off. When I take it off, I don't get paid. So I've had to really balance where my life is, and also I'm a mother now. And I think maybe when my daughter gets a bit older, maybe I could go back to contracting if I wanted to, depending on where everything is. But I just feel like in the best interest of my family, and I'm working for an organisation that fully understands work-life balance. Like, it is one of their ethos. Like, it's huge for them. And certain things that I'm able to do to enable me to do my role is there. I can't. Listen, for me to not be able to negotiate that contract, for me to not negotiate the package, then you've got to know that they came too correct. And this is why when it comes to organisations, we steadily keep our foot on their necks. Because there are some organisations out there are wild and mad. But there are some that understands the value of people. It does exist. It does exist. And there are organisations that you need to assert certain things. Like, this is what actually I want. This is how we're going to negotiate to get what you want. Yeah, you're going to have to. And it's not that organisations not all organisations want you on the cheap. Most do, but not all of them. But they bank on you not knowing your value. And this is why I've taken the time to really explore knowing your value. It's so important. That being said, I'm going to have to tell my client excuse me, I'm going to have to tell my client that I'm terminating, and I am on a 1 week's notice that is mutual. See, some of these organisations, when they give 1 week, they feel like they're doing something very empowering, not realising that the contractor can terminate too. So I'm on 1 week. I know they're going to ask for more, but I can only give them a week, and that's because I want a break in between ending this current contract and going into a new role. I need a week, especially because now I'm going back permanent. So I need a week, and in that week I'm going to live my best life. I'm going to get 2 more tattoos, by the way. What else am I doing? I'm getting my hair done. There's some TikTok restaurants I want to go to. I've got stuff to do in that week, and then I need to rest as well. I want to enjoy that week, so I'm very excited. So I'll take you around that week as well on my TikTok. I really just want a break. I want to have a bath. Yeah, you heard me. I've been just having showers because when I got pregnant, I could not get in that bath. I tried, but I want to be able. I haven't stretched my leg in a bath. And if you've been following me for a while, I loved bath. It was part of my like soft life routine. But I don't have time. I'm a mum on the go, honey. Listen, getting in that shower and washing myself down, it has to be good enough. So the luxury of the bath will be enjoyed that week. But also as well, I feel like it was really important for me to come and share this because I've always been really open about journeys and things to think about, manifestation, and being intentional. Do you know that this organisation's on my vision board? Yeah. They're on my vision board. And I'm very proud of how far I've come. Because it's really hard for me to say stuff like that. But I am. But there's still work to do. That's how I look at it. There's still things to do. And there's still other stuff that I'm doing in the background as well. So yeah. That's kind of where I'm at. That's kind of where I don't even know what to say. Always show a thankful heart. Because if I hadn't sent Sam that email, after he had offered me the role, and then there was a few months passed and just said I wasn't in a position to take the role. If I hadn't thanked him, would he have even remembered me to then recommend me? The answer's no. I would have left that bit of a soury taste in his mouth, but I did reach out. Networking doesn't always have to be in a room. I networked. I've got a Rolodex now. I could go back contracting in 5 years, 10 years, and honestly, the industry would welcome me back because I still have my contacts. And whether they'll be there or not is a different thing. But I know what I need to do. But I feel like I'm ready for this chapter in my life. I'm sure it's going to be met with, there's going to be an adjustment period. But if there's anything I've learned from contracting, is starting again. And I said that at the beginning, right? And I'm really excited to be specialising in a particular area. I'm very, and I do think, I think for the first 2 weeks I'm going to be benched. They're going to bench me, just like, because I think that they've also accepted there's going to be adjustment period as well for me at being a contractor. They've actually said that to me, which is great, because what needs not to be explained is understood. So there's that. But then obviously they've got projects in mind for me, so I'm really excited, and I'm really looking forward to this chapter, and I'm really looking forward to the course I'm going on for being a director, which is quite bespoke to the organisation, and I'm really looking forward to working here and remote working and going into client sites and when I need to. I'm really looking forward to it, actually. So yeah, I'm going to redo my office. I've decided I'm redoing my whole office. We're going to get our handyman to help us. So I just need to go on Pinterest and figure out what I want to do with the space. My office space is in an awkward, it's awkward, the layout. And in that week, I'll probably just get stuff. And then while I'm benched, I'll get our odd job man to come and sort out everything. And I get to, go through all my paperwork and stuff like that. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I wanted to share the learnings, and hopefully you guys have learned from what I've shared and why, and my thought process and the strategy and everything like that. And I think it's also important, and I say it all the time, having a vision board is the step of being intentional about your career and holding yourself accountable. You have to have personal objectives. I have an earlier podcast episode called You Are the Architect of Your Career, because you are. And what is the architect? You are the builder of your career. You are the person that holds the pen at the forefront of designing what you want in your career. I'm talking to you as somebody that I didn't know I was dyslexic until university. I'd done my GCSEs. I'd done the first couple of years in uni. So there's no shortcut, especially as black women. There's no shortcut, and representation matters. I understand that, and I feel like as black women, we've entered an era where the uncomfortable conversations are being had, but it's how we use these situations to catapult our careers to the forefront. How you hold organisations accountable for example, passing your probation. You don't have to progress in one company. Contracting taught me that. You don't have to do that. Contracting is very viable for those who want to scale and grow quickly, but then you are in charge of your additional learning that comes with that growth as well, because there's no structure around you to hold you accountable. You are the structure. Create the structure around you that you need to catapult your career. If you want to follow me on social media, my TikTok account is Toya Washington. If you want to follow me on Instagram, my personal Instagram page is Toya_Washington. The Toya Talks Instagram page is Toya_Talks. If you have a work or life dilemma, or something related to both, or one of, and you want to share it, email hello@toyatalks.com. You are the architect of your career. Nothing in life worth having is smooth sailing, but it doesn't have to be a battle. A society that tells us we're not good enough and depicts black women in a way that makes us all uncomfortable, as we live in a world that continues to diminish the struggles of women and of black women. It's often tiring to understand where we stand or where we can shine. For me, my career saved my life. At my lowest point, when I felt like I had nothing, work, career provided a structure for me. When I continued to understand how my career was moving, I understood the structures around me and the often restrictive structures to keep me in one place. But I'm determined. I'm intentional. I believe I deserve the things I work hard for. And equally, I believe in strategy. My name is Toya Washington, and you have been listening to the Toy Talks podcast.